Okay, let's now consider the second example. Suppose we have a square or a cube, if we view it as 3D body, under pure tension like this, okay? Because we apply the uniform stress on both sides. So given the stress, the question is, determine the displacement field. So this is in opposite to the first example. In the first example, the given data is displacement, from displacement to stress. But here, the given data is the stress, and then we should determine the displacement field. So a kind of inverse problem, right? Of course, we cannot let it be without spot. So I have to draw spots. Why? Because to prevent the rigid body motion. Otherwise, even though this is in balance, because we have sigma on both sides, left and right faces, okay? But without spot, the body can move as a rigid body. Rigid body means that it can move freely like this pen, right? Without spot. So I have to provide some spots in order to remove the rigid body motion. Maybe the spot like this, okay? Okay. This is called the body under pure tension. So it's like a bar problem. And then the second body, this one, the same body actually, okay, the same square, but under the pure shear. So we have shearing force here, tau, okay, equal shearing force. All of the body is a square, okay. It means the length is A and also the length is A. So given the stress, please determine the displacement field. Okay, I will do it in paintbrush. Okay. Let's consider first the body under pure tension. This is sigma, and then this is sigma, and then the coordinate system is this one, right? This is x, this is y, and then the body is this one. A, this is A. Let's assume that the body you may assume as plane stress, or you may assume as plane strain, up to you. Okay, of course the result will be a little bit different. Okay, because I have used the plane stress problem, the plane stress assumption, or the plane stress example in the previous example. Now let me assume that the body is in the plane strain condition. Okay, plane strain condition. I assume like that. Okay, because here there is no information whether it's plane stress or plane stress or plane strain. So we must take some assumptions. Okay, so what should we do? In the plane strain condition, we should begin here from the stress information. What the stress information? Sigma x is sigma, okay, because we see that this is we will see that this is under pure tension, constant pure tension sigma. So we assume that Okay, the body subjected, every meter point in the body subjected to sigma, and sigma y 0, tau xy 0. What else? In plane stress or plane strain here, we also have sigma z, right? But sigma z are also assumed 0. Okay, so actually, if this is the condition, no, sigma z is not 0. Sorry, because I assume as plane strain. If I assume sigma z 0, of course, become plane stress. Sorry. So, of course, sigma z, if not 0, we can calculate use the constitutive equation. Which constitutive equations? Let's take a look at the previous slides. Of course, constitutive equation for plane strain. So sigma z we can calculate from here, assuming that there is no temperature change. So sigma z, of course, mu sigma x, okay, from here, because sigma y 0, okay? So this is the condition. If we assume that as plane strain condition. Any question? So beginning from here, what can we calculate? Strain, right? Strain. We can calculate using this, but we later we have to inverse, a little bit difficult. It's good to use the this one, okay, directly, strain, because we all know the stress information, so we can calculate epsilon x, epsilon y, epsilon z should be 0. We can check later, okay? Epsilon base z should be 0 because plane strain, okay? So from here, epsilon x is what? From here, 1 over E sigma x minus nu sigma y, sigma z. Sigma y, but what is sigma y? Here sigma x is just sigma, right? Sigma x is sigma minus nu sigma y. Sigma y is 0. And sigma z is nu sigma. Sigma x is equal to x. Actually, this is nu sigma, right? Nu sigma. Okay, that's for epsilon x. So this one is equal to 1 over E sigma minus nu square sigma, or we can write it as sigma over E 1 minus nu square. Okay, that epsilon x. About epsilon y. Epsilon y, okay, let me write in here. Also 1 over E sigma y 0 minus nu sigma x. Sigma x is sigma. Okay. And then sigma z is nu sigma. So the strain in y direction is what? 1 over E minus nu sigma minus nu square sigma, or minus nu sigma over E 1 plus nu. Okay? Any question? This is by assuming plane strain condition. It means we still have sigma z. Don't forget, In the plane strain is not plane stress. So if we have sigma, because of the plane strain condition, we also have stress in the z directions, following this one, following the previous one I gave to you. Okay, this one. Okay. Even though sigma y 0, but sigma z, yes, we have. And then accordingly, the epsilon x, epsilon y given by, yes, actually we can use this formula actually, okay? But here I use the 3D formula to make it easy. Otherwise, we have to calculate the inverse. Okay, any questions? And then let's check epsilon z. Epsilon z should be 0, right? Let's check, because this is plane strain. Check it out. 1 over E, sigma z is nu sigma minus nu sigma x is sigma, right? And plus sigma y 0. Yes, exactly 0, right? We can see that immediately that this is nu sigma. Okay. So it's correct. What else? Gamma, the shearing strain. Okay, the shearing strain is what? This is just tau xy, 0 tau xy divided by G, shear modulus. Okay. So it's 0, right? So the non-zero strains is epsilon x and epsilon y. Okay, let me write. Let me highlight this, that this is the non-zero strains. This one, epsilon y here. This one. Okay, up to this point, any questions? So from stress, we can calculate strains using this one, or you can use also this matrix, but later you have to inverse. Okay, you inverse. I think better use 3D equations directly. And then the question is how to determine the displacement from this information, from this 3D information, because we only concern with U and V, the displacement field. Any idea? We have to use what equation? Kinematic equations, displacement strain. What is epsilon x? Epsilon x is nothing but this one, right? Partial u, partial x. Partial u with respect to x. This is equal to what? A constant. Yes, constants. That's sigma by E 1 minus nu square, right? This one, right? We have this information. Sigma by E 1 minus nu square. Okay, so this is a constant, a number, right? Just a number. So from here, we can integrate that U should be sigma E 1 minus nu square x. Agree? Plus a constant, because when we integrate, we have a constant. But is it really a constant? No, because this is partial derivative. When we take partial derivative, it means we hold y as constant. So what I mean constant is, of course, still a function of y. Okay, you can check that when we take partial derivatives with respect to x, is the result is this one. Okay, any questions? Now, how to determine these constants? From displacement boundary condition. Yes, because we see that the boundary conditions here. Okay, here hints, right? So the boundary condition at the bottom edge, the displacement in, this is displacement in v, right? Displacement in v is equal 0, but I need displacement in x from here at 0. So let me write boundary condition. We can see that from displacement boundary conditions, the displacement at 0, x equals 0, y equals 0 should be 0, right? So from here, what we get? It means that we can plug in this one. This is x. Plug in this is become 0. It means from here we get C1 at y. This is y equals 0, right? So this is a kind of not a kind. This is a function of y. The function the values of the function at 0, when y 0 is 0. But we do not know yet what is the function is. Okay, that's the first boundary condition. Okay, let's now move to this information, epsilon y. What is epsilon y? Epsilon y is, okay, that's minus something, but this is, according to kinematic equation, is this one, right? Partial derivative v with respect to y, this is minus sigma by e, correct? Sigma by e, 1 plus nu, 1 plus nu. Okay, just like before. How to obtain v? Just integrating, integrals. Okay, this constants, all constants, right? Because we know this data, nu, e, we assume that we know, and we assume that the material is homogeneous. It means constants. Sigma also a constants, a number. So this is integrate with respect to y, of course, y plus a function, another function. Let me say that it is a function of x. Okay, C2. This is C1. Actually, a kind of integration constants, but not really a constant because this is partial derivative function. So this is a function of x. How to obtain this function? Again, use boundary condition. We see that we have roller here on the bottom edge. What does it mean, roller? It means every material point on the bottom cannot move vertical. So v is 0, right? V is equal to v at any x. Okay, in bottom, this is the equation. This one is 0. So from here, just plug in y into here, and then we get what we get. This is remain variable C2x equal 0. So the conclusion is, okay, we get the v already. Okay, we get that v is, because this is 0, is minus nu sigma by e 1 plus nu y. This is the answer to v. How about u? Because we have two components, right, of displacement. Not yet, because we don't know how to obtain C1y. Okay, we should take a look at the shearing strain. This one, shearing strain 0. But what is shearing strain? Shearing strain is what? Partial derivative of what? U with respect to y plus v with respect to x. That's shearing strain, right? From the kinematic equation. This should be equal to 0. But we know already what is v. So from here, just plug in this into this. There is no x here, so it should be 0, right? So I can write like this. This one should be no. Let me plug in also U. What is U? U is this one, right? I take the derivative with respect to y, so becomes C1 prime y. C1 prime y. This is becomes 0, right? Equals 0. In other words, C1 prime y of y equals 0. The first derivative with respect to y equals 0. So, what is C1? Of course, just a constant, okay? A constant, really a constant, C. Not a function of x or y, because this is 0. The first derivative with respect to y, 0, it should be a constant. But according to these informations, the constants is 0, right? C1y is constant. That the constant is 0. So we can conclude that this one equal to 0. Okay. So the answer for U is, now we know that without any constants, that sigma by E divided by E 1 minus nu square x. So that's complete the answers. Okay, we obtain U, both U and V for this problem. Any questions? Yes, U and V. No question? Okay, let's now discuss the second case, pure shear. This is undeformed, and then the shearing stress is like this, okay? Subjected to external shearing stress. The boundary condition, let's take the same as before. I mean, the boundary condition is like this roller. This is hinge, okay? So the deformation pattern, we can expect that the deformation will be like this, right? Because of pure shear. Okay. Okay, that's the expected deformation of the pure shear because of this boundary condition. So in this condition, sigma x, the stress components, sigma y and tau xy, 0, 0. This is constant tau, right? This is the stress condition, pure shear. Okay. Again, you may assume this as plane stress or plane strain. Okay, again, I assume plane strain. If plane strain, what sigma z? Sigma z is nu sigma x plus sigma y. But both are 0, then there is no temperature effect following this formula, right? There is no temperature effect. This is 0, this is 0, 0. So for this problem, of course, this 0. So in other words, whether you consider it as plane stress or plane strain, no problem, the same, okay? The result will be the same. When the condition is pure shear, as I talked last week, right? Whether you consider plane stress or plane strain, the result will be the same because sigma z equals 0. And what you get from here? Either using assumption of plane stress or plane strain, you will get, for example, epsilon x. What is epsilon x? Okay, you can use the same formula, 1 over sigma, 1 over E, sigma x plus nu sigma y, right? Plus this one. Plus or minus? Minus, I think. Okay, let me take a look. Minus, right? Okay, minus. So it's minus. and that's exactly 0. Also, you can calculate epsilon y, that will be 0. The non-zero strains, of course, will be, this is, you can obtain this one. This will be gamma xy, of course, not 0. That becomes tau over g, okay? The only non-zero strains components is the shearing strain gamma xy. Well, the question is how to determine the displacement. Again, from here, what is epsilon x? Epsilon x is nothing but this one, right? Okay, if the first derivative, partial derivative with respect to x0, what is u? Can you give me answer? Can you suggest the solution to this problem? Give me a function that the partial derivative respect to x will be 0. The function is what? Come on.
Or ay function.
Just a constant, right? A constant of a function of y, right? Okay, only function of y. Because for any function of y, you take the derivative respect to x is 0, because y we regard it as a constant, right? Okay. Similarly, from the second equations, the epsilon y is this one, right? We get that v is another constants. Let me say another constant function, but not really a function, but a function of x actually. So in other words, u is a function of y only without x, v is function of x only without y. Okay, begin from here. And then boundary conditions. I think we can begin from here because we know that along the bottom edge that v, because that's roller, it means to prevent the vertical displacement, right? We cannot, these material points cannot move vertically, so v along any point at x, but y equals to 0 is 0. So from here, this is x remain x, okay? We know that v is exactly 0, okay? V is 0. How about you? Of course not 0, right? Of course not 0. Does it make sense that v equals 0? Yes, because you see that if this is the original configurations, and then after deformation, it's moved here, right? This is after deformation. It's just moved in x direction. There is no motion in y direction. So it's correct that the v should be 0 because there is no motion in the y direction. So only this as only a function of y. Okay? Only a function of y. So what can we do now? Okay, to solve this one from the shearing strain. The shearing strain. Shearing strain is constants. What is shearing strain? According to kinematic equation, partial u with respect to y, okay, in opposite, this is xy plus v with respect to x equal to tau g. That's from this condition, right? Okay, but we know that v equal to 0, so this must be 0, right? Because partial v with respect to x equals 0. So from here, what we get? U, what is u? Oh, this only function of y, so becomes u1 prime y. This is the first derivative, partial derivative to y, or the first derivative. Okay, the derivative to y plus this is 0 equal to tau over g, correct? So, well, the first derivative with respect to y is equal to a function of y equals constant. So, we know that the constant itself is just integrate, right? The constant of function of y is tau y plus constants, real constants, right? not longer a function because this is only function of one variable. The problem is how to determine the C. Okay, that's easy, right? Because now let me write first. It means that U, so U is tau by G over G, Y plus constants. But from boundary conditions, that the U at, because we have hints on the left, on the corner, left bottom corner, okay, here. What does it mean, hints? Hints, it means at this position, at the point of origin is 0, right? Because that's hints. And the conclusion, you plug in this into this, and then we get that C equals 0. Therefore, this is the answer for the displacement field. Okay, so that's how we can how we can use the governing equations using the constitutive equation and kinematic equation to obtain from stress information to displacement information. Okay, this needs the information regarding boundary condition and also in displacement boundary condition, and also needs integration. So it's normally more difficult to do this because if we begin from displacement, we know the displacement, it's easy to compute the strain and displacement, just derivatives, right? Taking derivatives is easier than integration, right? Because when we integrate, we should take information from boundary conditions. Well, that's all regarding the this problem. Any questions? How to solve this problem? Okay, that's just illustrative examples how to use quantitative equations. If no, let's proceed to discuss the concept of strain energy. Well, for an elastic body without temperature change, let's say a bar, okay, a bar, we have learned that the strain energy in a bar is given by this one, okay? Can you remember? Okay, linear elastic material, the stress condition only sigma x, the strain energy given by this one. Well, now suppose that in addition to the axial stress in x direction, we also have a pure shear stress conditions. We also have a pure shear condition. Or let's consider now, how about the strain energy due to pure shear stress condition like this, okay? So the same, I think the same box like before, but this is very small because in the here we have a finite dimension, but this is very small. But under the pure shear like this, let's say the length or the size of this box is dx, dz, dy. It means represent a infinitely small material point subjected to pure shear tau. Because of the presence of the pure shear, it undergoes deformation like this. Okay, this is original configuration. This is the deformed configurations, and then there will be some deformation. The deformation is measured by the change in angles, right? Or the change, the slope of this line. The slope is this line is gamma, or you may interpret as the angles. We always assume that gamma is very small, so the tangent gamma, is approximately gamma, okay? So it's this one, this side, the length of this side divided by this side, okay? That's gamma. The motion of the top face is gamma times dy, okay? Gamma times dy. Well, This is, we have on its face the shearing stress tau. How about the shearing force? The shearing force is just the shearing stress multiplied by the area, and the area the top surface is dy times the z, right? Because the z is this one, right? Pi times z, that's the area. The stress times area become the force, shearing force. Why do we need to calculate the shearing force? Because we want to calculate the work done by the shearing force. The work done is the force, the shearing force, times the displacement of the top face. Okay, so this is gamma dy. So the result is we have 1/2 because we assume that the material linear elastic. So the result is 1/2 tau gamma dx dy dz is dv. But from definition, the work of the internal force is the strain energy, right? So this is nothing but the strain energy. So we know now that we now know that the strain energy of this infinitesimal is given by this one. Okay. So the total strain energy, of course, that's what we consider is just small part of the material. If we have a whole body, of course, just we integrate the whole thing, summing up the whole thing, or in other words, the volume integrals of 1/2 tau gamma. Inside this integrals, actually, the strain energy density due to shearing strain. Okay, so the expression is very similar to the previous one. Okay, just change the sigma by tau and epsilon by gamma. So in summary, in a plane stress or plane strain model, its strain energy is the summation of all normal strain energy due to sigma x and shearing sigma x and sigma y, because we have normal strain energy in x and y directions, and shearing strain energy due to tau xy. So in other words, this is the total energy due to the contribution of the all stress components, x, y, and tau xy. Thus summing all of them up like this. We can write in matrix form because in a plane strain and a plane stress problem, we can express the dV as the thickness times dA. So we can write like this. This is dV, S is constants. Okay, normally it's constants. This is the integration over the whole body, right? The problem domain omega. Either use this notation or this notation the same. The both sigma and epsilon, what are these? Can you remember? That's the matrix, right? The column matrix of sigma, and this is the column matrix of epsilon. Consists of 3 components, x, y, and gamma xy or tau xy. This is the same as this one, just rewriting in matrix form. Well, up to this point, any questions so far? How about if there is temperature effects? If there is temperature effect, we should modify the expression for the strain energy, become like this, okay? So this is considering the temperature effects, the strain energy, including the temperature effects, where sigma t here is depend on whether the problem is plane stress or plane strain. For plane stress, just this one, sigma t, and for plane strain is this one. That's the expression for strain energy. So let me now give answer to this problem. The last part in my video, right? The strain energy. Calculate the strain energy of this beam bending. Okay, let me do it here, okay? Beam bending. The xy coordinate is this one, right? X, this is y, okay? And then this is the spot. Since the force is pure bending. Well, from the previous lecture, we have calculated the stress in x direction only because other stress component is 0, right? The results is m y over I, and this is exactly the same as the one that we get from beam bending theory, classical beam theory. And then the strain in x direction is we get what? M y over EI, right? You may refer to my lecture as recorded in the video, right? This is the result that we get before. How to calculate the strain energy? Well, the length of this beam, let's say L, okay? The depth is D, the depth of this beam, D, and the thickness is H. And we assume that the coordinates is taken in the middle, so in the center here, okay? If this is 3D, we can show that this is X, Y, Z, right? Z here, Z coordinates. Because later we have to take volume integrals, okay? Or we may just not use volume integrals, then we may just use this formula, right? U is the thickness, because this is a plane stress problem. This is the formula. The integral over the domain. What's the formula? 1/2. Because only sigma x and epsilon y are the 0, we can just say that this is sigma x, epsilon x, dA, the area integrals, okay? So what is the area integrals? I changed my mind, sorry. It's better for this to look as a 3D solid, okay? Instead of, let me change the integrals. In order to return to the moment of inertia later. This is the Z, right? The Z. Z is from minus S over 2, S over 2. Okay, like that. Okay. Oh, sorry. Let me change things. Okay, let me use just this formula. Integral volume integrals 1/2 sigma x epsilon x dv for some reasons, because later I want to convert to I, moment of inertia, okay? But here, what is volume integrals? Volume integrals consists of 3, okay? 1/2 sigma x is my over I, epsilon x is my over EI. This is, we may start from dz, dy, dx, right? And z is from minus h over 2, s over 2, dy is from y. Y is from where? Minus d over 2, d over 2, and x is from 0 to L. Okay? This is the integrals, volume integrals for this beam. Okay? Well, all these constants, don't worry, okay? All of these are constants. So I can take it out from the integrals. M square y square to E I square, like that. Oh, no. Y square cannot take out because should not constant, right? That's variable. Sorry. This is wrong. I cannot take it out because y, of course, a variable, right? So this is integrals over the length L dx. I can write like this, okay, times what? Times the integrals dz and dy. Integrals of minus d over 2 minus h over 2 y square dy dx or dx dy, right? dy dz. Okay, why do I do like this? Okay, because I want to show that this is moment of inertia, right? Well, m square to ei square. This is L. Okay, the result is what this? This is y square times dy dz. The integrals of y square dy dz. But what is dy dz? That's you take a look at this cross section. Okay, that's cross section. That cross section. What's the axis of this? What axis is this? Z, right? Z. Z and then y axis. Okay, y axis. Dy dz, it means a small area here. Small area at the cross section. Okay. dA. Okay. And then this is y square. So in other words, this is dA. And you know, integrals y square dA over the area is what? That's moment inertia, right? This is moment of inertia. Okay, so L, this is I. So the result is we can cancel this to become m square L over 2 EI. Okay, that's the answer of the moment inertia. And this result is in agreement if you use the beam bending theory. Okay, maybe you learn from mechanics of materials that that's the strain energy. So we need to do volume or area integrals in this case, okay? But in this case, because this is like a beam, I can define this as a moment of inertia, and we can cancel with this one. Any questions so far regarding how to calculate strain energy? Oh, this is so quiet. Are you still there?
Yes, sir. No question so far.
No question so far. I hope very clear, right? Again, we have considered this body, right, in my previous lecture last week, right? Did you remember?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So from the lectures of last week, what we get? We get the strain, this one, okay? Because this is given the displacement, and then we can calculate using kinematic equation the strains. From the strains, we also calculate using the plane stress positive equation, the stress. And if you know the strain and stress, it's easy to calculate the strain energy. Just use this formula: 1/2 strain times the stress. This is stress, right? E epsilon. So 1/2 strain stress. The thickness is H given. This is 0.001 meter or 1 millimeter actually. Should integrate over the domain omega. The domain omega is a rectangle like this. So the x goes from 0 to 0.24. The y goes from 0 to 0.12. So it's easy. In other words, because these all constants, actually we can take it out from the integrals, right? Integrals of over the domain omega. Because this is the integrals become like this, right? When we take out, this is the constants, okay? This is the integral of the domain dA, and this nothing but equals to the area of the rectangles. The area of the rectangles, of course, 0.24 times 0.12. That's this one, okay? So this take out from the integrals, and then this is the area, and the result is this one. In what unit? The unit depend on this one. Oh, this is kilonewton. This is square meter. So it means in kilonewton meter because this is energy. Kilonewton meter, or you may say that this is equals to approximately equals to 4.4160 times 10. We can multiply by, because this is kilo, right? Multiply 1000 minus 2 joule. Energy. The unit of energy is joule, right? Newton meter is 1 Newton times 1 meter is 1 joule. So this is very small amount of energy. This is easy because all are constants. Constant strain, constant stress. Constants in the sense is not function of position, x or y. It's more difficult if this is position function of x or y, because we have to do integrals. Okay, most of us don't like to calculate integrals, right? Okay. Okay, in summary, to calculate strain energy, usually we need to calculate integrals, area integrals or volume integrals that we learn in calculus, right? In calculus or mathematics. Well, what we have discussed so far is governing equations, but in the form of strong form, and also the concept of strain energy. That's the very important concept in finite element, because strain energy normally become a measure of the error of the finite element. Okay, but to formulate the finite element, as we did in the case of bar problem, 1D problem of bar, we also will use the same principles to formulate the finite element for solving the plane stress, plane strain problems. That's the principle of virtual displacement. So let's discuss these principles. Well, can you recall what the principle of virtual displacement is when we learn about bar? Come on, give me an answer with your own words. When we learn about bar, this is bar, what did we do regarding this principle? Or what this principle says? The principle says that if our body or bar in the condition of equilibrium, then we disturb a little bit by virtual displacement, okay? A little bit, just imagine, okay? Disturb, then what happened? The internal strain energy or internal virtual work, or delta U, internal strain energy, is equal to the work of external forces during virtual displacement, right? So this is in summary, delta U is equal to delta W. This is internal virtual strain energy. This is external strain energy, virtual strain energy. Okay, that's the principle for any admissible virtual displacement. That's applicable for any admissible virtual displacement. So let's take a look in details. Let's consider again our typical problem of plane stress or plane strain, right? We may have geometry, omega, right, and gamma, the boundary. The geometry consists of omega, the domain in 2D, and its boundary gamma, okay, subjected to some forces. We also have displacement boundary conditions. This body in the static equilibrium, we assume, right, like that. Then, according to this principle, the internal virtual strain energy equal to external works. But what is internal virtual strain energy for in this context? This is the definition. Okay, a little bit different with the strain energy. If the strain energy before is U, not delta U, is equal to volume integrals of 1/2 epsilon transpose sigma transpose dV. But again, here without 1/2. Okay, this is the definition of the virtual strain energy. But in this problem is in the case of strain energy is epsilon is the factor of actual strain. But what is it? What is this? What is this? This is the factor of virtual strain, not actual. This is actual stress, but this is virtual, not actual. Virtual strains, right? The components of the virtual strain consists of 3, just like actual. We have epsilon x, epsilon y, gamma xy. Here we have delta epsilon x, delta epsilon y, gamma xy. So this is called factor of virtual strains. The factor of virtual strains is related to the virtual displacement delta U by the same relationship, right? Delta U, the displacement, by the kinematic equation. This is incorrect. I mean, the virtual strain is related to the virtual displacement by the same relationship as the actual one. That's through the D operator, matrix operator, okay, the differential operator, okay. The same kinematic equations. That's the virtual strain energy, the definition. How about this one? This one is just the work of the forces, external force. What forces in this case? Or we have P, so we should multiply by the virtual displacement, not actual. Okay, in this principle, always virtual displacement. Multiply by its virtual displacement. It means virtual displacement at that point times P. How about the contribution of distributed force on the top face? Okay, that's the work of this one, right? Along this surface. So the work of this stress or this traction force is P1 times delta U integrate over the surface. Which surface? S1. What is S1? S1 is the surface on which T1 acts. Yes? You want to say something? No? Okay. How about the contribution of P2? The same. Okay. On the surface. The integrals on the surface. So this is surface integrals. And lastly, don't forget, not only on the surface, but at every point in the body may have body force. So this is the virtual work of body force. Okay. So this is how we apply the principle of virtual work for this problem. How we write the principle of virtual work. So the principle says, let's say, refer to this example, illustrative example. If this body in the static equilibrium, or the principal plus displacement states that the body in static equilibrium, if and only if, in other words, should be applicable. The internal portable energy equals to the work of the external portable work for any and all admissible portable displacement delta U. In other words, what? Suppose I have actual sigma, the solution from the true solution, or you propose a solution sigma for this one. If your proposal is correct, okay, it means the exact solution for this problem. It means I can choose any vertical displacement, and this should be correct, should be true. However, if I can choose only one that make this incorrect, it means your solution is not an exact solution to the problem, right? That's this principle is kind of checking, right? You propose a solution sigma, okay, I check. Just like this. Is this balance? I check, just move a little bit. Okay, if it return to the original position, is in balance and stable, right? Okay, like that. A kind of testing. So portable displacement, a kind of some people call test function, right? So our trial solution, sigma, you can try your solution, and I will test. Use this one. Okay, so that's the principle of portable displacement. This equation become the basis for deriving, not in this course, but maybe next week I will derive the finite element to solve plane strain and plane strain problem, beginning with the simplest finite element. Okay, so that's the weak form actually for plane stress and plane strain problem. So we can have the statement in addition to the strong form. We have the weak form statement for plane stress and plane strain problem. The statement given like this: given the problem, of course, the problem is the geometric data, material properties, actions, right? Actions including temperature, including the spot, okay, prescribed displacements. That's all the data, complete data. And then find an admissible displacement. Admissible, it means that the displacement should be already satisfies the boundary conditions, such that for all admissible delta U, this holds. This equation holds. The principle of vertical displacement equation holds. Of course, what I mean in sigma here is actual stress relating to the displacement using the equations, okay, kinematic and causative equations. That's the weak form, okay. Of course, also as in the bar, whether the strong form and the weak form should be equivalent. Equivalent in the sense that if I have a solution for a strong form, then the solution is also the solution of the weak form. And conversely, if U is the solution of a weak form, then U is also a solution of the strong form. Otherwise, our statement is two different model, right? Otherwise, it's a different model. Strong form and weak form is not equivalent, but they are equivalent. And there is mathematical proof for this, but I will not present it to you the mathematical proof. If you're interested, you can read from books, difficult books actually, a little bit difficult, that from Hooks. The proof of this is written in his book on these pages. Okay, so just believe that strong and weak form are equivalents. Okay. Well, I think now it's already too late. Before formulating the finite element for solving plane stress, I want to talk a little bit, just a little bit, about practical aspect of the output of the plane strain on plane stress, plane stress or plane strain analysis. But I think because it's now already too late, I will postpone this discussion to next week. Okay. Any questions so far regarding our course today?
No,
Please, if you
sir.
have any questions.